What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Michael Fletcher alongside Anthony Florio, and well, welcome to a twin bill, as we would say. As tonight we are going to do the Bulls Corner, and we also are going to do a special recap of tonight's King of the Ring tournament as it was held on the WWE Network. We'll get into the King of the Ring momentarily. However, first off, we got to get into the Bulls Corner. Unfortunately, last night, due to control that things that were beyond our control, the Bulls' corner turned out to be a complete and utter mess. Basically, what happened was I had work commitments. I couldn't be online last night, so we tried to have a connection, ran through my cell phone, and it just would not work. It for some odd reason, I don't know if it was an audio thing. I'm still trying to figure it out as we speak. When as it relates to my cell phone, I got a Samsung Galaxy 5. Maybe somebody can give me some heads up about maybe it was a Wi-Fi connection, or was it just bad internet, or what happened. Whatever the case may be, it didn't work, so it blew up in our face. We tried to go on the Uvu, and Florio was saying that it didn't. It seemed like that didn't work either. So we kind of got scrapped and the whole 9 yards. But now we're back. I'm back behind the computer again, behind my Sony Vaio, and Anthony, of course, on his. And we're gonna do the Bulls Corner. Give you a brief recap about it. Um, we're not going to give you too much details. We're not going to go full deep like we did last night. We'll just give you a brief synopsis, what we think, what happened last night, and then what we hope to see Chicago do on Thursday night as it pertains to Game 6 of the Eastern Conference first round against the Milwaukee Bucks. As we go back to Milwaukee, hopefully Chicago can finish the job and win the series, and then face the Cleveland Cavaliers sometime next week in their second round matchup. But let's just briefly get into it, Anthony. It was a 94-88 victory for the Milwaukee Bucks, and they absolutely, like we said last night, they absolutely dominated the game. Once again, hats off to Jason Kidd for doing quite a masterful job in the game, and so many key weapons on that team. From Michael Carter Williams to Chris Middleton. Um, I mean, it was just a complete and utter dismantling of the Bulls, and it looked like Chicago was just out of sync, out of whack. Turnover is not a major deal like it was in game 4, but still, whatever the case may be, Milwaukee was just the better team last night. So with that said, Anthony, let's just go. Why don't you just give me your brief thoughts about the game, and then what does Chicago have to do to win Game 6?
Well, I should be asking you that because you're more of the analyst than I am. I'm more of the play-by-play guy when it comes to the NBA. Stanley Cup, that's how we are on the Stanley Cup, as we are. But get into that in a little bit because we do have an announcement about that coming up. But nonetheless, hello friends, it's Anthony Floyo here with you. As we're doing this 2-for-1 deal here tonight. I mean, when we make a promise to our fans out there, when we promise we're gonna make it up to you fans, we go the extra mile. That's what we're doing here tonight. I mean, we were supposed to do the Bulls Corner last night, but due to difficulties and circumstances beyond our control, mainly Michael Fletcher. Unfortunately, we could not do the show last night. I mean, audio difficulties for one, Fletcher's work commitments. So yeah, so there was nothing we could have done about that. I mean, we almost had it on the Uvu, but something happened on that, and unfortunately, we couldn't. It didn't go through, I guess. But even though I hit the record button on it, but nonetheless, here we are for this special twofer video, double indemnity here tonight. Get used to that because there's going to be quite a bit of double indemnity over the next few days. Um, Bulls Corner here, and then the recap of the King of the Ring tournament special that was seen exclusively on the WWE Network. So, yes, as far as Game 5 goes last night, I mean, yes, Chicago took care of the turnover, a major difference in the turnovers. 26 turnovers in Game 4, only 12 last night. So that was an improvement right there. They literally cut that thing in half. And I'm very happy about that. What I'm not happy about is just how, piss poor they are. I mean, I still think they were looking past Milwaukee and, salivating over what's going on in Cleveland. Because in Cleveland, Kevin Love is done. He's out for the rest of the postseason because of that nasty shoulder injury he suffered in the clinching game against the Boston Celtics at TD Garden on Sunday afternoon. And then J.R. Smith gets suspended 2 games because of a Noggin Diva moment that he had during that same game on Jay Crowder. And that's what he's serving a 2-game suspension on top of that. So Chicago was obviously thinking about that, and they're like, we don't care about Milwaukee. We're focused on Cleveland right now. And I think that's why they lost ultimately, because I think they were looking past Milwaukee and thinking about Cleveland when they clearly should be thinking about Milwaukee. That's my feeling of it. I don't know if you agree with me on that. If you don't, fine. But if you do, I hope you do. But this is just my opinion. And yes, they took care of the turnovers. That's fine and dandy. But there's more to turnovers. Derrick Rose needs to wake up. He needs to be like that MVP he was in 2011. And I found out an interesting stat here. When Derrick Rose plays on 2 days of rest, which the Bulls are going to have here, 2 days of rest, he averages about 28 a game. That might be an omen going into Thursday night. And then on top of that, I think on one day of rest, or less than that, he averages like about 14, I think. So, yeah, so Derrick Rose definitely, hopefully Derrick Rose can get to that 28 average or somewhere around that. Jimmy Butler, Jimmy Buckets, as we call him, he's got to start making some buckets. That'll help. That'll help the cause. Joakim Noah, I'd like to see him get more on that score sheet as well. Pau Gasol was far and away the best player last night. I mean, 25 points and 10 rebounds last night. He definitely did his part, but the rest of the guys have got to step up. The bench players have to step up too. Tony Snell in particular. I mean, Tony Snell was an unsung hero in Game 3 when he had the 16 points in that double overtime thriller. The last 2 games, he's been non-existent. He was as non-existent as Evgeny Malkin was for the Pittsburgh Penguins when they lost to the Rangers. That's how non-existent he's been. Let me tell you that, folks. I mean, I like to see more out of him. And Taj Gibson, he had a solid game, but I like to see more out of him too. I mean, Gasol was really the only real bright spot for us. The other guys, look like deers in the headlights. No pun intended, because they're playing the Milwaukee Bucks. So yeah, what Chicago has to do is they have to play like they did in those first 3 games. They got to definitely, when we get to Milwaukee, first of all, they got to take the crowd out of it. That's the first thing they have to do. Take the crowd out of it. Get off to a hot start. That'll definitely help the cause. Derrick Rose, average at least 28, maybe somewhere near that, because you're going to have 2 days of rest here. This is the first one. Second one is tomorrow. Game 6 is Thursday night. And then from there, Gasol has to continue to play at that dominant big man that he's been over the last couple of games. I'd like to see him keep that up. Noah get some rebounds as well. Get some more in the score section. That'd be nice. And then Jimmy Butler's got to start making some buckets in order for him to live up to his Jimmy Buckets moniker. And like I also said, the bench guys. I want to see more from the bench guys. Tony Snell in particular, because he was the big hero in Game 3. So I want to see more out of him. So limit the turnovers like they did in Game 5. Do that again. Take the crowd out of it. Bench players have to step up. And most importantly now, buckets for Butler and Derrick Rose. Damn it to hell, son. Play like that MVP that you were in 2011. And if they do all those things on Thursday night, it will be just fine. Don't worry about Cleveland. Don't even think about Cleveland now. Milwaukee has you where they want you. Milwaukee has the advantage here. Milwaukee did something. They've done something that has never been done before. You know what that is? They became the first team in NBA history to trail 0-3 and get it to at least a game 6. That's never been done before. Milwaukee definitely has the advantage right now. I'm going to be honest with you. The last 2 games, Chicago has played absolutely piss poor, to say the very least. They're lucky to be even still leading this series. I could even honestly say Milwaukee outplayed them in game 3, but Chicago just got on a hot streak in the second overtime, and that's all it took. So there you go. So all I know is contain Carter Williams as well. I mean, Michael Carter Williams, I can tell you all about Carter Williams. I mean, nobody knows more about this kid than I do. Because he was a Syracuse guy. Syracuse, a part of my favorite college basketball conference, the Big East. Fletch, you know that. You know how much I love my Big East. And I'm pretty sure Carter Williams was there before Syracuse made the jump from the Big East to your ACC. So, Carter Williams was a spectacular, fun player, and I started to get flashes of his Syracuse days last night because he had that huge game. He was definitely the star from Milwaukee last night, and if he keeps playing like that, then Milwaukee's definitely got a chance to do the unthinkable, which has never been done in NBA playoff history. Come back from an 0-3 series deficit and win the series. And you heard this here, Fletch. You heard this here first, Fletch. And I'm going to be real honest with you. You're not going to like what I'm about to say, but I have to tell it like it is, a la Jesse the Body Ventura. And you heard this here first, too, friends. If Milwaukee wins on Thursday night and forces that thing back to Game 7 in Chicago, Milwaukee's winning that sucker. You heard it here first. I really don't see how Chicago can come back from that. I thought the Yanks were going to come back from that against the Sox in 2004. Look what happened. Boston just, steamrolled them. Don't get Cleveland out of your heads and get your own heads out of it. And for Chicago, they need to get their own heads out of their own asses and start playing Chicago Bulls basketball like they did in those first couple of games. They do that, we'll be fine. But if they keep playing like they had in the last few games, Milwaukee's going to tear us apart. Simple as that. All right, Fletch, put on your analyst hat and you tell me, what does Chicago have to do to, get out of this funk?
Well, it's pretty simple, and you kind of talked about a lot of the things. Number one, Derrick Rose has to really get a good game. Even though he was good and had a monster game in Game 3 where he went off for 34 points, he kind of has been non-existent in this game. The bench really has to step up for Chicago. I mean, other than Taj Gibson and Niko Mirotic, a lot of the Bulls have been non-existent. You talked about Tony Snell. You talk about, some of the other bench role players of Chicago, and they really don't get into those hot starts. And then contain. The bench of Milwaukee has been terrorizing Chicago the entire this, especially the last 2 games. The bench play of Milwaukee has just been unbelievable. With Bayless, with Henson. Henson's had some monster blocks, to say the very least, and that really has been a major problem for Chicago. And they really need to get their act together. And then one other thing, they gotta get free throws. They did really good in the last game. They got to the line. They need to get to the line again and get those free shots, those opportunities. Milwaukee was perfect. I think they went 14 for 14. Chicago, they were very erratic. And then they got to limit the 3-point shots. They're getting way too trigger happy, trying to shoot from the behind the arc. And a lot of the times, for a majority of them, they're not going home. They got to stop thinking threes and take it to the rack. You got 2 big men. You get Pau Gasol, the Gasol, Noah, Mirotic, Gibson. Those guys are your bigs. Get them involved, and then whenever you can get the opportunities, that's when you might want to see a guy like, you could see Dunleavy if Heinrich comes back and actually is healthy enough and good enough to play. I don't know. I mean, has been non-existent, especially in the last few games. We'd like to see him get off the ground. So there's a lot of factors that Chicago needs to do, and they really just have to get back to basics. Lockdown defense, that's always been Chicago's staple for the last few years. The lockdown defense, if they do that, I think they win, and they'll win this going away. So there's no doubt about it. I mean, Milwaukee is just playing with the house money right now. They don't feel intimidated. They don't feel fear. They're like, okay, let's just play and play our hearts out and ride with this. They got momentum. They feel confident. Now they believe in themselves. Like, we could actually win this thing now. And I think that's what happened. As far as Chicago goes, they just gotta go into Milwaukee, and just take them out of their game, get their rhythm out, get whatever they were thinking, and get it out of the system and just rip. Because we know, as good as Chicago has been all season long, and they've been good, they've had these lapses, and they're having a lapse right now, and they need to get out of it quick. Or like you said, Anthony, it could be too late, and they might be on the wrong end of history on this one. So we'll wait and see what happens then. The game is on Thursday night at 8 p.m. on TNT. So with that said, let's move on to the King of the Ring. The tournament was held tonight, the semifinal matches, and of course the final. And we'll get right into the King of the Ring. The first fight up was Adrian Neville, the man that gravity forgot, against the Celtic Warrior, Sheamus, the winner of the bout, and the man moving to the finals is Adrian Neville. Florio, it is yours.
5 minutes and 45 seconds, the time of the fall. For what we got in that short period of time, I'm going to give it 2.5 stars for this. I mean, it was a solid matchup here, to say the very least. And I'm not at all surprised Dolph Ziggler got involved. You knew he was going to, given that they're in a feud right now. And after what happened tonight, you know it's going to lead into Ziggler Sheamus 2 at Payback on May 17th at the Royal Farms Arena in Baltimore. But I'm not at all surprised. I mean, I made a bold statement. You heard me say it on the forum last night, and Michael Bullock agreed with me, pretty much like he always does. We both agreed that Adrian Neville was our pick to win the King of the Ring tournament. Because remember, the concept of the King of the Ring tournament was to give a certain up and coming superstar, or a superstar that's on the verge of the next level, whoever goes over in that becomes an immediate player, gets on almost a first class ticket to main event status. And oh boy, did we get snake in the grass in an ultimate way. We'll get into that in just a moment, but nonetheless, I mean, I'm not at all surprised Neville got the win here. The only way Neville was going to go over was if Ziggler got involved, and that's exactly what happened. But other than that, though, I mean, we still got a solid match here. I mean, I wish it could have been longer, to be honest with you. But for what we got, I have to say it was at the best 2.5 stars for my taste. So I'm not at all surprised Neville won. Like I said, I know bigger and better things are coming for this young man. We're going to get into that in just a bit. So 2.5 stars for me. So with that said, Fletch, did I underscore it, or did I score it just right, or what?
No, you did. You did not underscore this. This was a 2.5 star fight. This was a solid fight, no doubt about it. Yeah, Ziggler did get involved, but that was kind of a little bit after the fact. But at the end of the day, Adrian Neville got the win. He moves on to the finals. And, Anthony, you always talk about stepping stone moments. This is a stepping stone moment for Adrian Neville. I mean, we always were wondering, what are they going to do with the young guys? A lot of the time the NXT guys have been buried, to say the very least, since they made the jump into WWE. And I truly, legitimately has to say, he must have some really good backers, or somebody really must like him on the roster, because Neville, his popularity has skyrocketed since he's debuted. back at the night after WrestleMania, and already, and not even in a month, he actually got to fight for the World Heavy with the WWE World Heavyweight Champion, even though it was in a losing effort. He fought against Dolph Ziggler in a tremendous fight, which we said was a fight of the night. And now he got thrusted into the King of the Ring tournament and is in the finals of the King of the Ring tournament. Let alone, it's cool to be in the King of the Ring tournament, no doubt about it. But to be in the tournament final, and we already said when you are in that tournament, your career normally takes a launching pad, a launch off, and a great moment to say the very least for him, getting it over a big victory over a former world champion in Sheamus. I mean, definitely a feather in the cap for Adrian Neville, no doubt about it. So let's just move on to the next fight, which was Bad News Barrett versus R-Truth. This is the second semi-final match of the King of the Ring tournament. Bad News Barrett advances. He goes to the finals. All right, guys, this was kind of a two-star fight. Short fight, no doubt about it. I mean, it was okay for what it was worth, but this was definitely the weaker of the two semifinal fights. But, Barrett definitely was very good. R-Truth gave us, a somewhat entertaining fight, but I can only give this about 2 stars. Nothing amazing about it. So, Anthony, I give it to you.
Right on the head here. 2-star match. I agree with you on that, Flex, no doubt. I mean, I don't understand why R-Truth had to be in this tournament. Same can be said for Stardust. I mean, you could have come up with two other guys you know, um, who could have used a little more of a rub here. I mean, in Bulk and I thought the other two guys who should have been in this tournament were Bray Wyatt and Ryback. I think they should have been in this tournament, to be honest with you. But but nonetheless, so they put R-Truth against Stardust, and R-Truth got a win, and and then they threw him against Barrett. And come on, did you really think R-Truth was going to go over Bad News Barrett? Did you really think so? No, absolutely not. No chance in hell. I mean, it was a 4.5 minute match, 4 minutes and 30 seconds, the time of the fall, and I'm not at all surprised with this outcome. I mean, nobody really gave Truth a chance to win. Um, the only thing I would have done differently, if I'm going to be honest with you, Flex, is I would have reversed the order of the matches. I would have had this as the starting match. I would have had Barrett and Truth open, and then have Neville and Sheamus as the second fight. Same outcomes, of course, but the only thing is, I mean, you could have, they could have told a great underdog story, with Neville having to, be thrust, right out there for the final, while Barrett, the overconfident, pompous heel, give him a chance to get well rested, and have, Neville as the ultimate underdog. That's how I would have booked this thing tonight, from my standpoint, but not my company, unfortunately. But if it was, I would have. That's how I would have booked this myself. And I would have given them more time too. I know we only had an hour of house money to work with, but there's so many things I would have done differently with this tournament. Well, I'll get into that when we do our overall, our when we end this thing. But nonetheless, it's a 2-star match. By default, it was the worst fight of the night, obviously, because it was only a 3-match show and it was only an hour show. So really nothing left to say, Flex. Let's just go right into the final.
The tournament final of the King of the Ring tournament was Adrian Neville versus Bad News Barrett. The winner of the bout and the 20th King of the Ring, Bad News Wade Barrett. Anthony Florio, it is all yours.
Okay. The time of the fall, according to this, 7 minutes and 5 seconds. Yes, okay. Bad News Barrett wins it. That's fine. But here's the thing, though. The match was incredible. I mean, yes, it may have been only a 7-minute match and whatnot, But you are going to be very surprised at the rating that Fletch and I are going to give this fight. We talked about this on the phone a couple hours ago, shortly after the tournament ended, and believe it or not, you're not going to believe how far we're going to go. Obviously, it was the fight of the night. Come on now, I mean that was way too obvious. But as far as how I'm going to book this, 4 to 4.25 stars. It was the fight of the night. I mean, it was one of the best King of the Ring tournament finals you will ever see. I don't think it's the greatest King of the Ring tournament final. I have to really think about what I felt was the best one ever. I mean, but nonetheless, I mean, it definitely will go up there as one of the best. I mean, some great near falls. I mean, no shenanigans whatsoever, no authority shenanigans, none of that BS during this. And I'm fine with Barrett winning it. I mean, God forbid. I mean, Neville is young yet. Neville, he's only a month into this. I'm very surprised that Barrett went over here. I really thought Neville was going to win this thing. This would have been a perfect launch pad for Neville. But here's the thing, though. Neville is going to be just fine. Really. He's already got a whole hell of a lot of momentum. He's got the crowd behind him. It's obvious Vinnie Mac and the Suits are behind him. There's no question about that. I mean, they're very high up on his work. I mean, go figure. His debut match, he squashes some Hammernager off the street. And then the following week, he's in there with the WWE World Heavyweight Champion Seth Rollins. And he's already had big time matches with Dolph Ziggler, with Sheamus, Bad News Barrett. And they obviously wanted to get Barrett the win back from the Extreme Rules pre-show the other night. And Neville's going to be just fine, folks. You heard it here first. And Derek Ferrera, our hardcore pipe bomb, our grand poobah, if you will, he came up with an interesting scenario. Of course, we all know what's going on with Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan, he's going to be out for an extended period of time. If it gets as serious as it did at this time last year, which I'm praying to God it doesn't, there could be a moment where Daniel Bryan may have to relinquish the Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship, just like he had to relinquish the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, last summer. When it was revealed his injuries were going to be, too serious for him to compete. And Derek Ferrera came up with a scenario where if that happens, then the IC belt becomes vacant. Have Adrian Neville become the new champion. I'd be okay with that. I mean, and yet the Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship, like the King of the Ring, would serve its purpose for it to be a launch pad to the next level for an up and coming young worker, and that would be a perfect launch pad for Adrian Neville. But Dan Bryan, I know Dan Bryan's going to be just fine, so don't worry about that. He should be back within a month or so. Hopefully, he'll be fine. But nonetheless, sky's the limit for Adrian Neville. I wish he would have gone over. I would have liked to have seen him gone over, but hey, Bad News Barrett clearly needed it more because let's face it, here's a guy who has been booked so piss poor over the last several years. I mean, he wins the very first NXT, and then from there, I mean, he's in not one but two main event feuds with perhaps the two biggest names in the company, Randy Orton and John Cena. In 2010, he's challenging Randy Orton for the WWE Championship in the main event of both Bragging Rights and the Survivor Series before, he got ultimately buried, literally and figuratively, by John Cena at the TLC. So, and he hasn't really been the same since. Yeah, he's won the IC belt 5 times, but all of those reigns were really meaningless, to be honest with you. And this is a perfect way for Barrett to finally get some momentum, some long overdue momentum. Because, the only thing I am concerned about, however, remember when he was the Intercontinental Champion, they had him lose on TV damn near every week. I'm hoping that now that they put the King of the Ring crown on him, that this is hopefully the start of bigger and better things for Bad News Barrett. I mean, we've been looking, for that next great heel main eventer. I mean, yeah, Seth Rollins is far and away the best heel right now. And then you got Sheamus. Sheamus turning the night after WrestleMania. Sheamus right now is on his way to becoming a great heel main eventer. Let Bad News Barrett join in that group. I want to see him, get more opportunities within the main event picture. You do that, then we finally have a reason to take him seriously. It's nice to see him win this. And he clearly needed it a lot more than Neville. Neville's going to be just fine. He's young yet. Barrett's been there 5 years. Neville's only been there 5 weeks. What do you think? So that's really all I can say about it. So now, before I throw it to you, Fletch, I told the fans that how I would have done this. I mean, I'm glad they brought it back. I commend them for bringing it back. But here's the thing, though. You stretched it out. You only did 8 men, and you only did it in a span of 2 minutes. Baby steps, I suppose. But here's the thing. If you're going to do this again next year, which I pray to God they do, bring back the qualifying matches, first of all. Expand the field. Maybe expand it to 16 or maybe even 32. And then we can really party. And then maybe put the finals on a pay-per-view. Or better yet, give it its own pay-per-view like it used to have back in the old days. From 1993 to 2002, it had its own pay-per-view. And that's when that thing was prestigious and fun to watch. Fletch and I, we've seen them all. Whether we ordered them on pay-per-view or we rented them from video stores or got it from, friends of ours who were nice enough to lend us their copies of it or what have you. And of course, nowadays on the WWE Network, because they're all there. So give it its own pay-per-view, expand the field, and let's get some more meaningful names in there. Let's limit the Dud Enhancement names. We don't need any Dud Enhancement guys in that. Let's get some mid-card to let's get let's get the best mid-card guys in there and have the King of the Ring serve its purpose as to being a launching pad to the next level, to the main event level for that up-and-coming superstar on the rise. Glad they brought it back, but I kind of think they dropped the ball on this a little bit, just a little bit. 4 to 4.25 stars is my rating. Yeah, I know that's an extremely high rating for a 7-minute match, but damn it to hell if it wasn't a good match in 7 minutes. If they can do that in 7 minutes, think of what they could have done in 20 or 25 or 30. Think about it. If it had been that long, then we would have been talking 5. So that's all I can say on that. So it's the fight of the night, 4 to 4.25 stars, one of the best finals in recent King of the Ring history. So congrats to Bad News Barrett, and hopefully they don't muck this up. If they do, it's overtime. Let it yours.
There's nothing really to say. 4 stars is my rating. And yeah, it was a 7-minute match, and I get it. But the fans in Moline, Illinois, got more than money's worth on this one. I mean, they're doing the SmackDown tapings tonight, and they did it before the whole thing. And yeah, I agree with you, Anthony. I think what they should do is go back to the 16 men, or at least do qualifying matches, just to set up the King of the Ring. And actually, there was even talk that they were going to expand it, that they were going to do a longer version of the King of the Ring tournament, that they were going to have the King of the Ring be for a few weeks and then end it on a pay-per-view, possibly at Payback. But unfortunately, they kind of rushed into things. They wanted to do a quick tournament. That's why we got this 2015 version of the King of the Ring, because they wanted the fans to stay. Those fans who got the WWE Network for free, they roll them a little bone here, give them something really special. Which, don't get me wrong, I don't mind it. It's good, nice. But at the end of the day, I would have gone with something a little more better, like you said, longer tournament, whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, they did get the winner, right? Bad News Barrett deserves to get the King of the Ring. He's been in the company for a while now, and as many of you know, this is it for Wade Barrett. He's already announced that once the uh, once Bad News Barrett's contract runs out, he's leaving WWE. So with that said, I really don't have really nothing bad to say. Just congratulations to him. He wins the King of the Ring tournament. He is the 20th King of the Ring, the only man in the history of the King of the Ring to win it two times was actually, yeah, it actually was. Um, it actually, it actually was Bret the Hitman Hart. He won it in 1991, and then and consequently enough, he won the first pay-per-view televised King of the Ring tournament. As many of you know, King of the Ring was not televised. It was actually started out in the Sullivan Stadium, well, which was later renamed Foxborough Stadium. They did two tournaments there, and then for about 4 straight years, it used to be right here in our own backyard in Providence, Rhode Island, at well, was known as the Providence Civic Center, now known as the Dunkin' Donuts Center. And then, of course, we all know about the lineage and history of the King of the Ring. So we don't even need to go into nauseatum about that. But whatever the case may be, congratulations to Bad News Barrett, the winner of the King of the Ring. All the best to him. All right, guys, so that is it. You know what? I didn't want to do this, and it's just kind of just broke just now. Anthony, stand by. I got some breaking news for you coming out of the UFC, and I want to put your 2 cents in here. John Bones Jones has been stripped of the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship and has been suspended indefinitely by the UFC. The belt is now been put up for grabs, and Daniel Cormier and Anthony Rumble Johnson will now fight in a few weeks to become the new UFC light heavyweight champion of the world. This just broke just minutes ago. So, Anthony, I know you're not a big UFC guy, but I know you've heard the news about what happened to John Jones. Can you talk? Can you just give me some kind of reaction to this?
Of course I can. I mean, yes, I mean major news indeed. I mean this is a black eye for the UFC because John Bones Jones was on his way to becoming one of the greatest UFC talents of all time. I mean, right up there with your Chuck Liddells and your Randy Couture's and your George St. Pierre's. But in light of his recent Noggin Diva Dinkelberg moment that he had this past weekend, I mean, he embarrassed the company. He embarrassed Dana White. And when you embarrass Dana White is going to hit you in the mouth because that's the kind of guy he is. And I applaud you, Dana White, because if it was me, I would have, I don't know what, I mean, indefinite suspension, a stripping of the title. I commend Dana White for this because I know this has his fingerprints all over it. Let me tell you something. If you do anything to disgrace the sport and you do anything to disgrace and let down Dana White, oh, what Dana White will do to you. And what did he just do to John Bones Jones? He hit him in the mouth. He hit him low. Basically, he hit him where he lives. And that's exactly what he did. So, leadership by example. I've always believed in leadership by example. People may not like leadership by example, but damn it to hell, I love it. And Dana White should be commended for what he did tonight. Now, because here's what happened. John Bones Jones he's had quite a few Noggin Diva moments and quite a few Dinkelberg moments this little hit and run thing. That's one thing. But remember, he's also been busted. He also had a couple of positive drug tests, as I recall. So he's been given every second chance there is. You're supposed to be the face of the company. You're one of the top faces of the company, and you go and behave like this. Yeah, that's why you're going to be sitting at home on your ass collecting nothing. I mean, I hope that indefinite suspension is without pay. It better be without pay because, I mean, if he's sitting on his ass and he's still getting paid for it, well, that's like a slap on the wrist in my book.
As of actually, Anthony, I can actually Anthony, I can actually confirm it is without pay as well. He's all you need to know, and this is all you need to know right now. This is like I said, this is just breaking just minutes ago. Basically, it says that John Bones Jones has been suspended indefinitely by the UFC without pay,
Good.
and he has been stripped of the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship. Um, Basically, what it's saying, and this is actually just mentioned by Dana White. He made the announcement. It says here that basically John Bones Jones was arrested on allegations of leaving a scene of an accident, which is a felony due to one of the drivers suffering a fractured arm and wrist. And there was also rumors about possible cocaine in the car of John Bones Jones. However, they cannot confirm or deny. As of now, UFC 187 is still going to happen, and Daniel Cormier will now fight Anthony Rumble Johnson, and the winner of that fight will become the new, undisputed UFC light heavyweight champion of the world. So there you go.
All right. So I just wanted some clarification on that. So good. And like I said, hats off to big ups, and hats off to Dana White. I mean, he took control of a very, and I do mean very difficult situation, and he did it the best way he could. Indefinite suspension, stripping up the title. That's well done. Of course, if it was me, I would have actually considered even. I would have gone as far as firing the man because that's a fireable offense, if you ask me. I would have dropped the hammer altogether. I would have fired his ass, and I would say you'll never work. And I would see to it that he'd never work in the business again. Because if you're going to behave like a Dinkelberg and a Nog and a Diva, well, you know how I am about that. I have zero tolerance for Nogs and Divas and Dinkelbergs, especially Dinkelbergs. That's been my new pet peeve as of late. But don't ask me about that. But as far as I know, I mean, John Bones Jones. I mean, this is another rise and fall situation. I mean, we saw with Aaron Hernandez. I mean, he had a stellar career going in the NFL, and look what happened to him. He ended up being a goddamn murderer, and that's exactly what happened to him. And now he's got life without parole, and rightly so, well deserved. And then of course John Bones Jones, stellar career in the UFC, one of the top stars, and then ends up having to do this. I mean, unbelievable to say the very least. And I just cannot believe that we just had another rise and fall situation like we have with this right here. So it's definitely a black eye for the sport of mixed martial arts and for the UFC. And Dana White, like I said, should be commended for what he did. A very, very difficult situation, to say the very least, and he took full advantage of it and did a more than commendable job of handling it. And that's why I love Dana White and his body of work. I mean, to have one of your top faces of the company, if not the face of the company right now. I mean, I could also think of George St. Pierre as, I could also think of George. I could also think of George St. Pierre as the other major face of UFC. But the face of the if you're going to be a face of the company, you got to behave, with a certain degree of professionalism. And doing what he did, this whole hit and run thing, and getting caught and busted, with drugs and all that good stuff. That's not what a face of the company should be. You know, I may not be a mixed martial arts guy, but if I was an MMA guy, or if I was in the WWE or something, and if they, I mean, I understand there's a lot of pressure being the face of the company. I get that. I understand that. But you got to find a way to handle it. I mean, you can't handle it without a good. I mean, what happens when you're not disciplined? I mean, I got the discipline to handle it. I mean, yeah, it can get crazy at a job, especially if you're a face of the company. But if you're going to be a face of the company, you got to find a way to. I mean, you got priorities and responsibilities. That's all there is to it. And quite frankly, if I was the face of the UFC, I would do everything in my power, to show those guys. I mean, hey, they put all their trust in me as the face of the company. I'm going to take full advantage of it, and I'm gonna make sure their trust is justified. And that's exactly what I would do. So John Bones Jones did anything but that, and and once again we have another "oh how the mighty have fallen" situation. He went from being the face, literally the face of the UFC, to a guy who's going to be sitting on his ass for the unseeable future, doing nothing. That's what you get for behaving like a nog and a diva, and that's also what you get for behaving like a Dinkelberg. Career of a lifetime, son. Right down the drain, kid. I hope you love it. That's all there is to it. Take it, Flex. I'm done.
There is really nothing more to say. John Bones Jones, I mean, you have the UFC belt, and you are, without a doubt, the most recognizable face, maybe even considered pound for pound the best fighter in the world. And what just happened is unforgivable. First time, you manned up and you did the right thing. You went into the rehab because he got busted for drugs before, but he manned it up and did the right thing after the fact. But this time, you know, there was an incident in Albuquerque, New Mexico, a hit and run where he left the scene and there was cocaine in the car supposedly. I mean, it, it, it doesn't look good. It does not look good at all for him. There's really nothing more to say. I'm shocked. I'm appalled. I am heartbroken. I am disgusted with this. Absolutely disgusted with this because I've got a lot of respect for John Bones Jones, and I'm a huge fan of his. It really makes me question everything about him being you know one of the best. And I mean, we had another incident not too long ago with Anderson Silva that's making us guess a lot of things about the UFC nowadays. So with that said, there's nothing more to say, you know. And if you're Daniel Cormier, you just got the golden ticket to now become the man. But good luck because you're gonna have a big fight on your hands against a tremendous knockout artist in Anthony Rumble Johnson. So what could it be? We'll find out soon because that fight is now the new main event for the UFC pay per view 187. Along with that, there's also another major big title fight that night. Vitor Belfort goes up against the champion Chris Weidman for the UFC middleweight championship of the world. So, two big title fights going down on the same night. Man, I can't wait for that. I know definitely myself and Derek Ferrero will get into that very, very soon in the next few weeks as that leads in. But that's it for now, guys. So we thank you so much for watching this. Please leave a comment on the video. Please like it. And more importantly, yo, go to Anthony Florio, subscribe to Anthony Florio's channel, subscribe to his Facebook, or you know, follow him, tweet him on Facebook. Of course, for me, like my page, BraceFan95. Tweet me. I'm at Mike Fletcher Jr. And until then, you know the routine, everybody. How's the ham hounds? We out. Good night, and we will see you actually Friday night as we're gonna do a tufa for you guys. We're thinking about around 9:30. We're actually gonna do the Ranger Roundup and the Bulls Corner on that night, and then of course, and then Strictly Sports as we will be previewing the fight of the century, Floyd Mayweather versus Manny the Pac-Man Pacquiao, as that will be with Florio, Ferrera, Bullock, myself, and very special guest Jimmy Alden. That will be at 10:30 Eastern. So until then, have a good night, everybody.